All right, today we're looking at the notion of 2 point perspective. And we've had a video that looks at single point perspective, had a lesson looked at that. Today we're going to look at the notion of 2 point perspective. And so understanding that the difference in these are um, and how they apply to the world around us. I'm going to turn this up a little bit so you can see what I'm doing here. All right. So when we looked at single point perspective, it was the idea that if we're looking at a building and we're looking at the flat face of it, that's 90 degrees towards us, even if it's off to our left or off to our right. So that was the idea of the boxes or the buildings. And then as we look down between the space between those or on the sides of those boxes or those buildings, we see that they recede back into space and go to a single point off in the distance. And this is an example of single point perspective for this street over here. If you'll look, that's a single point that shows the perspective essentially of this part of the image. Over here is another single point perspective um, understanding. And so the 2 point perspective comes in now when we're looking at the corner of something, the corner of a four sided, if you will, or I shouldn't say four sided, looking at anything, rows of trees or anything, when we're looking at the corner of this, if you will, and we've got two sort of sides that go back into space, um, we're looking at how there are now two different vanishing points. So obviously for this one, they are over in this area, and of course that's still that vanishing point there. And so all of the lines in this image are going to point back to. I should have doubled that all of the lines in this image that run parallel are going to go back to one of those vanishing points. Oh. And so even here, listen, so we understand how this goes. And so think about how close, if we are closer to that side, if you will. So this person that's taking this image is standing almost on the side of the sidewalk, which puts them very close, relatively speaking, to this wall over here on the right. Well, because we're so close to that, the angle now of the tops of the roofs is almost straight up and down as it points to that vanishing point. Whereas the viewers further away from this side of the street, so the tops of those buildings don't go straight up and down. They've got more of an angle to them because they're further away from where the point of view from where the viewer is standing. Okay, and so that's kind of how that works with that 2 point perspective. I'm going to put another image up here so we can kind of see these. And another type of image, new from image. I don't know if you noticed, but I kind of like this Chrome Canvas app. I usually use the Sketchbook app, but where you all have access to this and can use it, um, I think it's cool to do this stuff here using the same app, so you can kind of see how you can use that when you're working on your stuff. So here we've got a building again, and we can see the corner of it now. Here's the thing. You generally won't see when you do a drawing. You will may have to add pieces of paper to the sides, to the edge, to actually get to those vanishing points because it's the example from before, and I'll show you what I mean here when I say this. This example uses what we call a fisheye sort of lens, and if you'll notice, it causes things to kind of curve here. These lines are sort of curved a little bit, and they do that. They took this specifically so they could kind of get all of this into one shot so you could see that. Very often we don't see both of our vanishing points in a drawing when we're working on it. And so this is an example of that. If we were drawing this building, we could identify that our didn't draw that very well. Try this again. Our vanishing points go off this direction, and I know this one comes from here. But look, our vantage point is off of the edge. It's not even close to this edge. It's way over in space somewhere. And so if I was drawing this on a piece of paper and I was trying to use a ruler to make sure all of my lines went back in space to that vanishing point, well, I'm going to have to add a piece of paper. I don't like that line. Let's try that again. I'm going to have to add a little piece of paper or something that'll help me get all the way over to the edge to that vanishing point so I can make sure all my lines are going where they're supposed to. And so, recognizing that that's how that 2 point perspective works, recognize too that again, if you're doing buildings or anything, those windows, look at the tops of the windows. All of them point to that vanishing point. We could draw a line from the tops of those windows just like we have every other aspect of the building. Same thing over here for the tops of the windows, the bottoms of the windows, all point back to those vanishing points. The tops of these windows down here and the doorways that let them into the buildings, all go back, and you can see how that works. Everything goes back in space to the same vanishing points. Even these lines here in the road go back to those same vanishing points. I don't like that little curve that kind of confuses things. There we go. Well, still makes a little curve. So I got to the edge. Let's just cut it off a little bit. There we go. And so that's 2 point perspective. Understanding that um, sometimes when we're looking at the corner, we need 2 points to explain exactly how our eyes interpret that distance and that depth. And so, as you can imagine, there's more than 1 point perspective. There's 2 point perspective. There's more than 2 point perspective. There's 3 point perspective. There's more than 3 point perspective. There's 4 point perspective. And so, what are the other perspectives? What's 3 point perspective? And we're going to do a video on that. We'll look at that also. But 3 point perspective looks at the idea that, let's say that building was really tall. Now we recognize that this building goes back into space in this direction. Oh, whoa, whoa. No, let's do that again. All right. All right. 2 point perspective says, hey, look, we recognize this building goes back into space in this direction. And it goes back into space in this direction. But if it's really tall, we would also have to recognize that it also goes away from us up. I mean, we can't go down, but it goes up. And so that's the third perspective, if you will. And then we got to consider the notion, what if we were in the ocean and we could see down? And so things that go deeper into the ocean, if you would go below us and start to create that fourth point of perspective. We probably won't do a video about 4 point perspective. It really makes a lot of use of that fisheye. 3 points usually where most that you'll ever really use to make drawings. But I'm going to do a video about that. Check that one out soon. All right, y'all have a great day. Thanks a lot.